Hello there guys, what is going on? Daniel Childs back here again for another video. It is the rational perspective on Chelsea 1, Brighton 0. Chelsea scored a goal, they won a game of football, and wonderful, isn't it? It's wonderful to be sat here because it has been so infrequent over the past year, feeling happy after a game involving Chelsea Football Club. You have to kind of sit back and take it in a little bit and appreciate it. At least until Monday, we've got some time to celebrate. Please do like the stream. We are doing this live. I am going to try to do as many reviews live on the YouTube channel moving forward. Before we do get into that, and I'm looking to my left here at the screen, not only for your comments, but also because the Carabao Cup draw is about to take place for the fourth round. So probably whilst I'm making this show, we will know who Chelsea are playing in the fourth round, and very likely, of course, it will be Man City away. So just to completely, lower our mood. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling in the live chat. Who was your man of the match? I feel that there was so much negativity, obviously, before this game, but also at half time. And to be fair, like, Chelsea were at times outplayed in the first half. I felt that for me, when I actually look at the whole game, it was more so Chelsea and mostly Robert Sanchez, as we'll get to, causing our problems. Actually, defensively, I felt that it wasn't that bad. You've got to take into consideration that Brighton are the top goal scorers in the Premier League so far this season, and they are a very clinical team. They're a very productive team, even with some rotations that De Zerbi did tonight. You had to appreciate that they were probably going to be more cohesive than Chelsea, and also the fact that Chelsea made rotations themselves. Marc Cucurella was playing at right back, and I think that pretty much sums up how rotated this team was, how freakish this team was. Going through it, I mean, the one big thing for me was, where is Noni Madueke? I don't know. He wasn't even on the bench. I don't know if it's a fitness thing. I assume Poch will be asked about why Noni Madueke isn't being involved, because he's just very strange. Like, this for me felt sort of Amazon primed for him to come in and feature. But Mudryk, I thought, was another positive. Cole Palmer, I thought, was fantastic. Nicholas Jackson, a massive moment for him at Stamford Bridge once again. I thought that Axel Disasi and Levi Colwell proving, as I pointed out in a recent show, that maybe Thiago Silva shouldn't be a regular starter in Pochettino's defence. And I felt that was a really good example against a high-energy team with lots of speed. Not even the first choice back four. And they coped well. They kept a clean sheet. So I think, obviously, you're going to be happy. You're going to be happy with the fact that Chelsea have won. We're into the next round. You want to capitalise on these competitions, because without Champions League or any European football, it makes sense to try and win this competition. For Pochettino, it would be huge. There is a narrative for me behind Pochettino winning the Carabao Cup with Chelsea, because, of course, if you remember, way back when Jose Mourinho beat him in the League Cup final, that was, of course, Diego Costa and John Terry scoring. I was there that day at Wembley. So maybe that's playing on Poch's mind, and I think it's nice to see that we're through and we've beaten a team of Brighton's quality. And I did see a stat that this is the first time that we've beaten a team inside the Premier League top 10 since, like, Aston Villa in September of 2021, when Lukaku looked like a good striker. So it's been a long time. Before we do just delve into my thoughts, I do just want to do a few cheap plugs, if that's okay with you guys. Please hit the like button. Please share this stream with fellow Chelsea fans to get involved, to celebrate the fact that we've actually won a game of football. You have to appreciate them when they come around, obviously. I said this on my last show. I have been nominated as a finalist for the Football Content Awards this year, in the Best Premier League Club Content Creator category. Please go in the link down below. You can vote for Son of Chelsea. You can get us across all the socials. At Son of Chelsea is the handle on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on X, at Son of Chelsea too, if you want to follow us along that way as well. And on the podcast feed, we are part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. So on the go as well, even if you are watching this live, you can get it on the go later on if you want to get to bed. But why would you want to get to bed straight away? Because Chelsea have won a game of football. We have to kind of appreciate it a little bit. So let's just go through some of my thoughts of the game. Cole Palmer was my man in the match. I think he stood out, and I felt that was kind of... Well, it's expected that he was going to play a big part tonight because obviously he has shown some good cameos so far for Chelsea. He's come in with a lot of hype, obviously, and you know, is another one of these players that we've bought for huge money, and kind of this fear that is he going to be lost in the shuffle. And he's come from Man City, and he's made the jump from a team who are likely going to win the Premier League again. He could have stayed there, very comfortable, kept on winning titles, Champions League titles, even if he wasn't one of the key players. And he's made the jump here, and I thought tonight there were shades of a certain Mason Mount in the 2020-21 season. It reminded me of just the intricacy and the ability to be involved in so much throughout the game. And that 1-2 touch football that we got excited about during pre-season was back in periods, and it was the moment that won Chelsea the game. And I thought that Cole Palmer, there was a moment, we saw the connection with Cole Palmer hitting a ball over the top of the Aston Villa defence in the second half against Aston Villa on Sunday. We saw it in the first half. He played a ball through to Ben Chilwell. Chilwell was obviously playing more in his natural left-back role, and he has the ability to make those diagonal runs. So I speak about him, why he should be playing as a left-back week in, week out. Apparently, Man City have been knocked out. I've just seen a comment saying Man City have been knocked out. I've only really been focusing on Chelsea tonight, which is incredible that Man City have been knocked out. If you are listening back, we're just checking to see if Chelsea, we find out who Chelsea have been drawn against yet, because I did see the draw was happening. I don't want to sort of keep everyone waiting. Knowing my luck, it'll probably be delayed. But in truth, I think that, you know, talking about Cole Palmer and his ability as a number 10, it's very exciting. I think he has an ability. I can't remember who it was. I think it may have been Expected Chelsea. He did tweet tonight, and I do want to give him credit. He said, you know, Cole Palmer is a Man City footballer, movement, technique, everything. He's a level above, absolute Rolls Royce. And I agree. I thought tonight we saw the hype that everyone sort of had for him, right? I know Alex Goldberg is a massive fan of Cole Palmer. I know he had the secret scout on, and everyone was getting very excited. And listen, whenever a player comes into Chelsea, I want them to do amazingly. I want them to play 10 out of 10. I want them to be the best player in the world. There's never a point where a player comes into Chelsea where for some weird reason I want them not to do well. But you know, I try and be objective. I try and look at things not from always the most optimistic or kind of blue tinted glasses, you know, and think, could this go wrong? Why are there reasons this transfer could go wrong? And I don't think that's the worst approach. But I do think with Cole Palmer, seeing how he has been able to link up very quickly with players in and around him, and the way he linked up for that first goal was wonderful. I will just go back to, so you had Marc Cucurella playing as a right back, which is just, I never want to see it again. You know, in the end, we got away with it is what I will say on that front. We got away with Cole Palmer, of Marc Cucurella playing at right back against Matoma. Again, it feels like Malo Gusto injured, no Reece James. But it was something early on that I was thinking this is going to be a bad night for Cucurella, and he had his usual shaky moments. But given he was playing out of position and factoring in the lack of football he has had under Pochettino so far this season, listen, I know everyone likes to kick the boot in on Marc Cucurella, and I'm not going to say he had an amazing performance tonight, but listen, against one of the best wingers in the Premier League currently, the fact that we got a clean sheet out of it with that selection, you know, I don't think is the worst thing, is it? Even if we believe that Cucurella hasn't got a long-term future at Chelsea. Another negatives was, of course, Robert Sanchez, who was turning into, I think, in the second half, and it was more because of the Brighton fans behind the shed end, in the shed end, obviously. In terms of his ability, it seemed like to turn back into a Brighton player and just want to pass the ball to Brighton players. I mean, he effectively tried to give João Pedro an easy opener. João Pedro turned attacker and decided, I'm not going to score this chance, and he just looked very shaky. And it's a shame because, you know, it feels like Robert Sanchez has grown into that role. I think has gained a lot of credibility, and seems to be growing in strength with each game. But I think the issue when you have moments like that, it does question his fragility. It does question why he dropped so far out of favour, be at Brighton. I'd like to think that, you know, it's just a bad night for him, maybe psychologically playing against a club that he ranks at, and, you know, maybe it was just a psychological thing. I don't know. He just had an off day, but he did make up for it with a massive save in the second half after Chelsea went 1-0 up. So I do need to give some context there and some balance, because I thought that, you know, we got to give credit to Sanchez, even if we do say that on the ball, I don't think he was very good, and I thought he kind of got Chelsea into some big problems that we were able to get away with in the end. Ugo Chukwu is a very lucky boy. He really is. We were lucky in this one aspect that the refereeing was absolutely atrocious once again tonight. No VAR, and I think tonight was a perfect example of why VAR is something that you should have in the game at the top level, because number one, Chelsea should be at least winning this game 2-0. Nicholas Jackson had a second goal that was onside, once again assisted by Cole Palmer, that should have been given. Armando Broja, for some reason, was... I mean, this isn't even a VAR thing. This is just like a competency thing. Like right at the end, the linesman deciding he was offside whilst getting the ball on a counter-attack in his own half, which, unless you don't know, which I'm sure you do, is not offside. Staggering once again. But Ugo Chukwu was kind of struggling in the first half, and he got a yellow for a pretty risky, rash challenge. And in it wasn't even a minute later, he goes diving into another challenge, and on the replay, it looks horrible. You know, it really does. And it's the sort of challenge that with VAR, he's off. There's no way, two ways about it. And if I'm a Brighton fan, just like as a Chelsea fan, when we get frustrated by officiating decisions, it's just bad. And it's a shame, right? Because I don't want to spend chunks of my show talking about officials and referees and the PGMOL and VAR, because that's not the interesting thing. But I think it's a disservice to the reality of what we saw tonight. Was once again just not very good officiating that could have cost Chelsea. I think arguably cost Brighton, because without Ugo Chukwu, you know, Chelsea down to 10 men. Very different game when it's 0-0. But I felt that Ugo Chukwu, to be fair to him, I thought would have been sub, because he looked a little bit rash and like he was being overrun. He actually got better and composed himself at half time, and I thought done a lot better in the second half. So to be fair to him, a young player who's still got years to grow, and I thought, you know, it was going to be a difficult test for him tonight, and I think in the end he came through it, but was lucky. Absolutely. The goal itself comes from a high press. I thought Chelsea's best moments in the first half came from that kind of ability to press high. You've got the likes of Mudryk, you've got the likes of Cole Palmer, Ian Maatsen, Nicholas Jackson. There's real speed in that attack. And it was just nice to see Caicedo involved too, just how quickly the ball was played into the feet of Ian Maatsen, who during pre-season played much more as an advanced attacker rather than as his usual left-back role. And we saw the way he linked up with Nicholas Jackson. We saw the way how in tight spaces he was able to find passes. And he did it again here with Cole Palmer. And Cole Palmer just, again, it's that sort of composure in that moment that we have seen just not be a part of Chelsea's attacks in recent years or even recent weeks, and I think that's something that hopefully Palmer can add to his game a lot more consistently, because it could be, you know, a real difference for Chelsea in the coming weeks and months. And I felt Palmer's ball into Jackson, and given that Jackson had that miss against Nottingham Forest, he's struggled in recent weeks, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence, and the pressure's on him. The lack of goals, obviously, when you're a striker, the attention is going to come to you. The fact that then he takes that first time and just rolls it in the bottom corner, and the finish as well for the second goal that should have been given, it should remind people that, of course, football's a confidence game, but Nicholas Jackson, as I said, I think when he signed, is that the good thing about him is there isn't this high sort of saviour expectation on him. No one sort of looking at him and saying, you have to be the saviour, you have to be the guy that's going to get us 30 goals. And I think that is something that for Jackson hopefully works in his favour. And I also think with Armando Broja coming back, that's going to help him a lot, because I think Broja will give him substantial competition across the course of this season, and also gives us a different kind of... I like the fact that both are very fast forwards, and I think that's what works for Mauricio Pochettino. But there are differences to them. I think physically Armando Broja is a lot more commanding, and he is much more of a bruiser in certain ways, but he also, I think, with that speed too, can very much work alongside the players in Chelsea's attack. So the second goal should have been given. Brighton had really one big chance in the second half that was well stopped by Robert Sanchez. I felt that it was notable that, again, I spoke about this the other day, that when you've got Axel Disasi and Levi Colwill against the club he was on loan with last season, and seemed to assume that they were going to sign him at the end of this season, end of last season, sorry, didn't happen. And he had a really good game. And I felt, I don't know, I just would like to think that Pochettino looks at that and thinks, actually, that's the back two I'm going to go with. We believe that Benoit Badiashile will be back soon. We hope Trevor Chalobah will too. That those are obviously good options to have back, and obviously options that I would like to see play for Chelsea. But I don't know, and I know the counterpoint to my Thiago Silva argument that was made, and I understand it, right? Because if Chelsea finished their chances, we wouldn't be having that conversation. I do want to say though, it's not just like in hindsight. I was saying this in the summer when I was making my kind of predicted 11s, that I feel like most of us had a sense, just looking at the squad before Wesley Fofana obviously got injured, that this is a younger defence and there's a transition coming here. And I felt that this is where the team's going, and just kind of knowing Pochettino's approach and why Thiago Silva, it might not be the season where he is consistently in the first team. But then it's up to him to respond. And if Chelsea are finishing chances as they did tonight, at the end of the day, are people kind of focusing in on the defence as much? Obviously not, but I personally did enjoy seeing that defence and would like to see it against Fulham. Because if it means that Chelsea can step up the pitch a little bit further, if it means that Chilwell and eventually Reece James and Malo Gusto, if it means that those players can advance up the pitch as fullbacks and really assist the attack, and the team itself feels more confident to step up the pitch and apply more pressure, because Chelsea have been very good at creating good quality opportunities. We've done that consistently so far this season, but also retaining possession and being able to control games. It's about that final part of it now. And I think part of that obviously involves the defence and your confidence that they can step up and they also can track back and they can cover space well with the midfield in front of them. We had Enzo Fernandez coming on, we had Conor Gallagher coming on, we had Armando Broja coming on too, and it pretty much just saw out the game. I know some of you are saying this in the comments about injury concerns, Nicholas Jackson with an arm problem, and also Ben Chilwell. We await to see with both of those, because Chilwell went off very late in the game and Chelsea actually finished the game with 10 men, I believe it was. So, of course, because kind of how all of this goes, right? We have had so many injury problems, and it feels like it's just a constant addition to that problem, and it makes on nights like this, you want to get that fresh momentum, right? And it's the Carabao Cup. It's not a Champions League final, but the win tonight can be used significantly, hopefully, to push Chelsea forward and to get Chelsea on a ground level again, where they can walk into the Fulham game with some confidence. Nicholas Jackson can, and then maybe you're starting to feel that the team is, I guess, starting to form a little bit more under Pochettino. But when you get injury problems to key players, it's just very difficult. I think people need to appreciate it's very difficult to create that, and it's something that unfortunately Chelsea have to get to the bottom of if they can. Is it just a fortune thing? Does it track back to when Bowley came in and was sacking all the medical staff, brought some of them back, the disruption that came from that? Is it a factor that we've spoken about before, the Pochettino kind of very intense training method and players, particularly young players, adapting to those methods, and in a longer period of time those injuries won't be as persistent because the players' bodies would have kind of adapted to that. I've heard that suggested. There are many different ways we go about this, but it is just so frustrating. And there also is the reality, unfortunately, as painful as it is, we may also have just injury-prone players who just struggle to stay fit for long periods of the season. That in itself is a question mark over several in his current squad, right? And we've had that problem with the likes of Christian Pulisic in recent years. So and hopefully is only a small thing. The good thing is this season is, you know, you got Ian Maatsen there, and although he has shown promise further up the pitch, I'd be happy to see him deputise at left back if that is what is needed. And I think that he offers a different option to Ben Chilwell. Isn't as polished as Ben Chilwell, but you know, I think he's still a player that we're quite excited to watch develop at Chelsea. I'll just go back to the comments now, just to see what you guys are saying. Kukurea redemption arc kicking in. He tackles like a homing missile and hopefully keeps this form up as we're going to need him. That's from Ollie Taylor. Yeah, I mean, I can't really see a redemption arc, but then if we have a really, really big injury crisis, it may become a redemption arc. I've tried to refrain from the over the top stuff about Marc Cucurella because it has been sort of kicking the boot in one after another on him, and I think we can all see with our own eyes over the past year that he has struggled performance-wise. There have been some suggestions about stuff off the pitch that we don't know the full clarity of, that, you know, when you throw into the mix that variable of changing clubs, of changing environment, and has that impacted his own quality and his performance and his self-belief too in his own ability, and the chaos as well, you throw into the mix as well, the chaos that was Chelsea Football Club last season. But I still think that, I don't know, I just, technically, I think Ben Chilwell and Ian Maatsen are just better players. I think they offer more in the long term than Marc Cucurella does. Hopefully Marc Cucurella, even for a very short term, can get some minutes. I don't quite buy the idea of this whole let's get up his value. I just don't. It's always the pre-season argument, right? Of we in recent years where we throw in these real fringe players that have absolutely no future at Chelsea, and everyone keeps saying, well, you know, it's trying window. I don't buy that because it doesn't actually work, and sometimes it costs you in games that matter. So Cucurella, you don't want to go overboard either way, right? I think it's about balance. He kept one of the best wingers in the league quiet. That's something to be right. And I think people who are really, really harsh on Cucurella, I don't think it hurts you to give him some credit. It doesn't mean that suddenly he's the world's best player and he should be playing every single week and all of your previous criticisms of him are invalid. You know, I just think that some people, you just have to be humble sometimes and say, actually, on this particular game, in this particular situation, he was a very good player for Chelsea, or just was a decent player for Chelsea, right? And we won the game. Happy days. I can't say what happens from here for Marc Cucurella, whether he becomes a fully fledged first teamer again. I think that's unrealistic personally. That's just my personal view. Thank you for those watching. Apparently the draw is starting now. I'm going to be wrapping up pretty soon, so maybe we won't get... We'll cover that on tomorrow's show. I'm doing a new show tomorrow. We'll cover some things. Victor Osimhen, Ivan Toney, the Infinite Athlete deal. Gary Neville said something quite interesting about Chelsea, and I do want to respond to it because I saw some discussion about it. We will cover that in tomorrow's news show, and probably as well I will mention who Chelsea get in the Carabao Cup fourth round, which is likely to be probably Arsenal or someone like that, knowing our luck. Mudryk got fouled 4 times. Too bad we have no free kick takers. That's from Igor. Gabriel says Breuer looked lively. I completely agree with Breuer. You know, there's a reason why I like Armando Breuer, and it does link to one of my favourite ever footballers who played for Chelsea. But I think for him, there was a moment very late on in the game where he just muscled or was like almost bullying one of the Brighton centre-backs. I can't remember who it was. It was literally, the ball was in the corner. We were in like the dying seconds of added time. And again, it's just those little things that I just haven't seen in a Chelsea team for years. And maybe you call me old-fashioned, maybe you call me simplistic or reductive, right? And that's not to say that him barging someone is comparable to his ability to finish chances. Obviously not. But I don't know, it reminded me of a time when Chelsea were a lot more bullish and they were a lot more aggressive and ferocious in the final third. And you just hope that we will see a return to that one day. And I just am encouraged by what I see with Breuer, because it's in the Premier League as a striker. There's so much pressure on you at one of these big clubs, and I like the fact that he is back now and is going to give an alternative to Nicholas Jackson. And I think Breuer could maybe come out of nowhere. We knew he was returning, we knew his talent, but maybe just surprise people and actually remind some people, maybe even outside of Chelsea, that yeah, we still got Amanda Breuer, and actually going out there and spending 100 and something million again. Listen, I know a lot of people want to see it, right? And I can understand the panic that is setting in amongst Chelsea fans right now in terms of an inexperienced squad. Someone pointed out the wage bill as well. If you look at the wage bill and the way teams finish in the league, it's very comparable. If you don't have a high wage bill, likely you aren't finishing in one of the top positions. How much has been spent? Have we spent it on players who aren't ready right now? Are they going to fall under the weight of the pressure? So there is that kind of knee-jerk, let's go and get out the finished article. We will discuss that on tomorrow's show, because I don't think it's as reductive as we go out and sign a 100 million player and that's the perfect solution for Chelsea, or we don't and that's the perfect solution for Chelsea. I think that it's about, until January, look at the players we have, let's see what value we can get out of them, and hopefully kickstart a more positive form heading into autumn and obviously the huge winter months, which always are grueling no matter what season you're in. Please do hit the like button on this stream. Please also share it around. If you're new around here, if you're not a subscriber, please do hit that subscribe button. You can get involved in the chat if you're a subscriber. It's free to do. Turn on the notifications. We'll be back here tomorrow reacting to some Chelsea news of the past few days. You can listen to the show on the podcast as well, and you can get my reactions to the Chelsea games like this. I'm planning to do a lot more live shows moving forward. I also have a weekly Q&A called Added Time that I release on Mondays. We may move that forward next week to Tuesday because of the Fulham game, obviously. I like to do them post a game, but most of the time we are doing them on a Monday. So you can get involved in lots of things on the channel, and trust me, there are some cool things coming up in the upcoming months for Son of Chelsea. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. I want to say a massive thank you for tuning in once again. If you're watching this on YouTube Live, if you're watching this back on YouTube a little bit later on, if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in. Follow me across the socials, and I will see you again very soon. All the best.